Okay, well, hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a designer, and I'm also a lot of other things too. I'm a poet, I'm a sister, a student, a daughter, a coffee addict, and a painter. As you can see, some of my artwork really saturated on the CV below. And all of these other things make up who I am in addition to design, and they influence my approach to design. I come from two wonderful people. My mom was in marketing, and my dad is an engineer. And so from her, I kind of got more of my creative side, and from my dad, I got my appreciation for problem solving and spicy food. Unlike my dad, I never went down the engineering path. I was never the kid to take apart a watch and put it back together. I didn't really care how things worked, but I was more curious about why they worked. Why do you need to know the time? Why does it have to be on your arm? And basically, I never outgrew the toddler why phase, and that's benefited me a lot as a designer. When choosing a career path and thinking of what to do, I pulled value from things that I knew I loved, creating through painting, communicating through poetry, being challenged through problem solving and puzzles. And design seemed like the perfect intersection of all of those things that I loved. So I thought, why not give that a try? And I am so glad that I did. Through studying industrial design at Auburn University, I've had the opportunity to travel the world. I've had the opportunity to pass down my design skills and knowledge to the next group of designers, being a TA for 2 years. I've also been able to work under several sponsored studios of big name companies to design solutions for them. All of my projects have built upon each other and led me to the point where I am today. So let's take a look at some of those projects. The first one I'm going to be sharing with you today is Tidy, and this is an appliance redesign for a home appliance during our second year of school. Now, coming into this project with little to no design experience, I thought a blender is used for blending. You only interact with it when you're blending. But there's this whole other process that goes on kind of behind the scenes because we're so accustomed to it. And that is the entire user process of interacting with this product. So once I kind of learned this approach to design, I began to identify areas for improvement, which are kind of at the beginning and end of this process, storage. And the reason that I came to this opportunity for development was through a combination of market and user research. I took a look at what was out there in the market and analyzed those benefits and values for each product and kind of charted them to see where the opportunities for innovation were, along with learning the user pain point of storing big blenders. Developing this concept, I mainly focused on part interaction to see how I could reduce that storage footprint for a family-sized blender. And through sketching, I came to this idea of storing the pitcher upside down on the base to reduce the space. Now, this is where the project ended for us second year. I was done. But I came back to it after I learned some more skills and software to fully round it out. Tidy stores by removing the pitcher from the assembly, flipping it upside down, and storing it on top of the base, locking it on top of the base. And it can be able to store as one unit anywhere in the kitchen, under countertops, in cabinets, anywhere that you store it. The benefits for this storage assembly also go into packaging. Before it even reaches the user's hands, it reduces packaging and shipping costs and materials by being able to fit in a shorter box than most standard blenders do. With exploring packaging, I also wanted to delve into some brand identity and graphics that would create a more thorough ecosystem of this, imagining what this project would be like. So as my first kind of big deep dive into design, this project taught me all the basics: research, ideation, implementation, of designing for an opportunity that I discovered through talking to people and through identifying what was already out there. Fast forward a year, and I'm in a sponsored studio from HP, and they gave us total freedom to do anything we wanted within the realm of their brand, which allowed me to reimagine what the traditional printer is like. Now, in this studio, since we were so unrestricted, we had people developing apps, we had people developing VR capabilities, we had people developing systems to rent printers. And learning from the people around me, this really broadened my perspective of what design is. From what I knew to be traditional industrial design, there were so many branches that I discovered in this studio through paying attention to my peers. What I chose to focus on for this studio was household paper waste. But the more I talked to people that use printers in their home, I realized that paper waste was a symptom of these two larger problems, which were the inability to print on custom sizes and the print preview confusion between the user and the interface. So I shifted my approach to solve the root of the problem rather than the symptom. I spent a lot of time developing this concept, and it felt like a maze. I knew what the problem I wanted to solve was at the end of the tunnel, but I kept hitting all these dead ends trying to get there. I would come up with a concept, realize why it wasn't viable, and add it to the graveyard of printer sketches. And what really helped me push this project forward was bringing those concepts into the physical world through prototypes. And I would put them down in front of myself and in front of users who would help me test them to see what was working and what wasn't in the user interactions that I had designed. Which ultimately led me to the final solution, the HP Scrap Saver, focused on solving those two identified problems through the physical product and through the interface. So the HP Scrap Saver allows users to print on custom sizes of paper, any size they want, and the interface gives them complete control over the layout of their paper, over the layout of what they're printing on that paper. Also working for a big sponsored client, I had to adapt to their already existing visual brand language for this product. So I had to make sure that my product matched their line of other products through form and CMF considerations. I learned a lot of more fine-tuned design skills in this project. So I learned a lot how to flesh out the basis that I'd already established in that previous project, and more broad approaches like UI, UX, visual brand language, and things like that. The last project I'll be sharing with you is Clio. This is a personal project that I developed this past summer, trapped in quarantine. And I wanted to address a safety concern in my direct community. And for me, that community is women aged 18 to 24. And the problem that I chose to address was how women carry their essential products in casual settings where they choose not to bring a purse. And I kicked off this project through some observational research. I saw that this was happening everywhere around me when I went out with friends or heard their stories. But interviewing real women about their experiences is what drove this product forward. And allowed me to get kind of a storyboard of the general experience of what happens if you carry things by your hand or loosely in a pocket. They're susceptible to falling out. Designing for a demographic that I'm a part of, I had to step away from personal bias and assumptions. I assumed a vertical solution would be the most natural since that was the current solution. But after talking with people about the comfort levels and security, I moved toward a horizontal development. Clio utilizes an elastic fabric to safely and securely hold cards, a phone, and a key, which were identified as the essential products that women need to have them everywhere they go. And the solution is intended to keep your personal items close to you, hands-free, and versatile, which were all key points that were identified through those interviews. I'm a designer, and I'm a lot of other things too. I'm a big fan of Project Runway, so I had a lot of fun looking at CMF trends and styling to make this not only a viable solution, but a desirable one. And that was one of the big things I learned through creating a self-directed project for myself, how to lead myself through that process by myself and be guided by the people that I was designing for in that demographic. So when asked to consider my design journey, it's not linear, it's all cumulative. Everything I've learned has built upon itself to get me where I am today, due to enthusiasm, dedication, and support from peers and professors alike. I'm grateful for all the experiences I've had in this program to get me to the point that I am today, and I'm grateful for the opportunities to move forward. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Xin Zhu. I'm from a senior industrial design student, and I'm an international student as well. And my design journey is actually started from 2013. And in China, if you want to learn art field or design field, you're gonna need to start from learning sketches and rendering. So that's how the first 2 years I spent. And after that, I come to the United States. I come to Seattle first and spent 2 years, and then I landed here in Auburn University Industrial Design. And as a person, myself, I always like to explore things. I always want to know how things works. And I also want to explore new manufacture ways, like writing casting, like stabilized wood. And all this becomes tools in my toolbox. And they helps me in my future design field. And yeah, enough on myself. Let's start with the first project. Puppy Show. This is a mechanical toy that I designed for children that between 6 to 8 years old. And this kind of toy helps you to develop problem-solving skills and mechanical thinking. And this is ideation sketches we spent about like 3 weeks to do all the sketches. And I try to figure out which combination is the best, which is most playful and has most movements. And at the end, I landed on this puppet show in the middle. And here's the appearance model. I made this model to finalize the size and where all the components goes and how it should look like for the final model. But yeah, the final model doesn't look like this at all. And here it is. This is the first handmade and full functional models that I made. And here is a little video that's what I want to show you guys. As you can see, the head movement will go up and down, left and right, and the flag will waving, and the arm of the puppet will go up and down. And here's some hero shots of it in different angles. And I also made a 3D file for the 3D manufacturing, and it's all pre-assembled. And as long as you download the file and you print it on 3D printer, you remove all the supports, it should work properly. And these are 3 colorways that I gave. All right, next project, IKEA hack. This is actually the project we did during the study vault program. And the reason why I call it IKEA hack is we have different teams, and each team have like 50 euro, and we can spend in IKEA for 2 hours. And whatever you got, like whatever you buy at the end, you will use them to build something that's worth more than the combination of all the items. And we designed to do the aquaponic system. And this is ideation process. We use in this stage, we decide how to modify all the things that we bought and how to place them, make the water flow actually works. This is a final shot of it. So the water pump will pump the water and all the waste that fish produced from bottom to the top to all the plants. And the water will all follow the plants. There's every leaking hose on every container and leak back down to the glass jar. Here are some detailed shots of it. And you can see the leaking hole on the sides. Here's a 3D model that I made to show you a better view of how the water flow goes and how it looks like when you turn on the LED at night. And for IKEA, I think this project actually can make a big profit for them. And what they need to do, just pre-assemble it, place next to all the things that we used, and sell as a combination kits that customers can customize it and DIY themselves. Next, moonlight table. This is coffee table that I made, and the reason why I call it moonlight, you will know later. Here's ideation sketches. This progress take about like 3 or 4 weeks. I draw tons of sketches and did tons of scale models, and always try to figure out like the best manufacture way because I have to handmade the thing. And I have to decide the cost. I have to think about all the functions I added to it. And at the end, I land to this rounded coffee table with a glass tabletop. Here's an explorer view. So basically, it's a 2-barrel structure. The inner barrel and the outer barrel are connected with a laser suicide structure, which allows you to turn the inner barrel, so it gives you a secret hiding space to store your stuff. And on the top, I add auto turning device, LED lights, and on the top of it is a moonscape rounded cut. So when you turn on the switch, the auto-turning device will turn the moonscape slowly and turn on the lights around it. And on the top is a glass tabletop, so you can see through it. And here's a manufacturing process. First, I flat the wood and then join them together so I can cut a big round circle on it. And I also cut pieces with a 10-degree angle on the edges. So when I glue them together, they will automatically become a barrel walls. And what I did at last is put everything together and sand all the edges off. This process takes about a week. And this is what I have at the end. As you can see, you can turn the inner barrel, and the space is plenty enough for you to store your tea, your coffee, your cup, your pot. And this is how it looks like at night if you turn on the LED lights. It will give a hollow light around the moon shape. And on the top is a sentence from a famous Chinese poet from Tang Dynasty. And he says the moon views at home is brighter, which actually means the hometown is actually the best place for everyone in their hearts, because in Chinese culture, moons always represent their hometown. And for me, as a foreigner, I'm here, I have the same feeling. That's why I choose this topic. I want to add this function to my table design. And at last, I want to show you guys some art piece I did. This is from the first 2 years that I practiced rendering and sketching, and they becomes my hobby. They're actually helping a lot when I do the industrial design sketches. And this will be all. I'm glad you guys have me here, and it's an honor to me. Thank you, guys.
Little song and dance, perhaps.
You see something?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Derek, and this is my design training. So, my journey began many moons ago when a publishing systems administrator met a systems and network engineer at a publishing conference. And I'm sure you have guessed it, these are my parents, allegedly, but they had me. And growing up, I was very lucky to have such supportive parents. My father always encouraged creativity and arts, while my mother, even though I didn't appreciate it all the time, disciplined me with a strong routine of this to work hard so I could have a successful future. Fast forward to college. I know they grow up so fast, but I followed in my mother's footsteps to pursue a mechanical engineering degree here at Auburn. And engineering was fine, but after 2 years, I just wasn't really happy. I felt like I was solving all these math problems, but for no purpose, like no one to solve these problems for. So what I thought would be a hard conversation with my parents, I ended up switching out of mechanical engineering and actually found a major where we can use creativity to solve these user-based problems. And that was industrial design here at Auburn University. So here is some of my work so far. First project I'm going to be showing is Atlas. And the brief of Atlas was to redesign the standard drip coffee maker using existing internal components for a persona-based user. So the first step, of course, was to do a little bit of market research. I found that millennials are the leading demographic in spending at coffee shops rather than bringing it home. Surprise, surprise. That led me to develop a persona of a millennial who does appreciate that quality and presentation of coffee shops, but wishes this could be experienced at home. This led into initial ideation of exploring forms that really give off a sense of presentation, but also looking at those internal components to give the best quality cup of coffee. Once I got a final form down, I went into volumetric modeling to better understand this in 3D, but it overall led to areas of improvement which I sought to better through a phase of development where I wanted to unify the form by creating a better user interface to overall better that experience. Now, the final design of Atlas was born, and this is the copy maker tailored for the millennial connoisseur. And so Atlas was a great project to learn about initial market research and taking all of those core design fundamentals and applying it to this starter project. It was also great for an exploration of Behance style rendering and CAD modeling, but like Behance, it kind of lacks that full in-depth user-centered approach, an approach that I wanted to get with my further projects, such as Space Fleet. Space Fleet was a sponsored studio project by Smuckers, and they approached us with the brief to design a long-lasting dog treat and complementary packaging following one of their subsidiary brands. And me and my naive designer brain, upon seeing this, thought, I mean, dog treats, like dogs will eat anything. That should be pretty easy, right? Well, that was pretty wrong. Actually, presenting initial art concepts, the client got back to me and said, "We love the effort, but these are overall a little bit boring. You were looking for something more playful and more fun." So I took this time to backtrack to really define the users and who I was designing for. And I found that there were two different users. The first consumer being the one that goes into the store and buys the product, and the second one being the literal consumer, the one that eats it in the end. And of course, they both have two different needs. The first consumer is more concerned about a safe design for a worry-free conscience, and the second is more concerned about how much bacon is inside to keep themselves entertained. Moving forward, I wanted to do a little bit more user research, such as focus groups with existing dog owners to find their insights, interviews with professional veterinarians, and even bringing in some test puppies to give them treats to see what they like. Taking all of this, I went into a new round of ideation, focusing on a new, fun, and playful form, following this idea of a rocket. Building off that final form, I went into prototyping to create 3 full-scale models to understand the actual scale, but also look at those textures and ingredients that would go in manufacturing. I then also at the same time did initial prototyping for packaging to understand die cut lines and their manufacturing processes, but also looking at innovative and complementary structures for the tree. This led to the final design of Space Fleet. And so all of the graphics following the Milkbone brand, but essentially it being a fleet of rockets that are dispensed in a new and innovative way, that way being dropped like an escape pod for a hands-free and interactive way to dispense. So Smuckers was a great experience to understand these different user needs and learn about packaging and brand identity, and really focusing on establishing those roots for the design problem before trying to solve it. I went on to take as many sponsored studios as I could because I found this would be the best experience for me at my time here in the program. It allowed for a collaboration with design professionals, working with existing brand language, and understanding their manufacturing processes. Taking all of this information, I wanted to go and do a personal project of my own interest, which was medical design. So this was during the time of the pandemic, when I wanted to look at this negative experience of breaching temperature checkpoints and redesign the no contact thermometer to alleviate that anxiety and overall create a better human experience. So everyone is familiar with the pandemic, but at this time, as the world began to reopen and people were trying to get back to a normal life, temperature checkpoints were ensured before allowing entry to try and mitigate that safety. But that experience could be overall pretty dull and inhumane, and especially during a time when we needed that human touch, I wanted to better that. So I went into initial competitive form analysis, looking at trying to find the gaps of where the traditional design failed and where I can implement a more delightful human experience. This led into ideating, which I began looking at non-threatening form, but also finding the insight of 2 screens to really simplify that communication for both users. I then moved on to initial prototyping to figure out those ergonomics, but really, most importantly, to show that user experience and test out that clear sense of communication. This led to a final development of kind of understanding the CMF and the manufacturing processes that would go about it, but also looking again at that UI. So this led to the final design of Apollo, and the branding of Apollo comes from the Greek god Apollo as a god of healing and medicine, and also playing off the Apollo moon missions, as the moon is a symbol of peace and tranquility. The form is inspired by Apple products and GoPro cameras to give that sense of familiarity, but most importantly, looking at that clear sense of communication to bring a more added touch to this rather negative moment. So that is Apollo, clarity to user design. Apollo gave me great personal insight into time management, my own dedication and user-centered focus. And through this project, it also solidified my drive and using the power of design to help as many people as possible in medical design, something I'm very looking forward to explore in the future with a year-long internship as an industrial design intern at Medtronic for their diabetes operational unit. And of course, I couldn't have made it this far alone. I have nothing but gratitude for my friends and colleagues that always push me to work harder. My professors were providing me with the knowledge and experience I've gained here at design school. And of course, I couldn't have done it without my parents. I wouldn't be here without them. I've never regretted changing from engineering, as my passion is design. I'll always appreciate the memories and look forward to the future. Thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Cam, and I'm excited to share my design journey with you all today. Over the next 8 minutes, I'm going to share a little bit about who I am, how these experiences have influenced how I approach design. And then I'll share my design journey and a little bit about my future. I grew up in Beaufort, Georgia, and ever since I was young, I grew interest in many things. This really led to a knack for wearing a lot of hats. I had a huge passion for sports, big long summers, and endless practices. I realized the importance and discipline to yield success. I was also interested in art, and this influenced me to attend a technology school where I actually became certified in Photoshop when I was 14. And this really spiked my interest in design and led me to create a shirt company in high school where I really learned the impact of design. And then I also was very interested, and I always wanted to become an inventor, designing rubber contracts, a hoverboard in the science fair, banana peeler, even a grass scooter made from a pool stick and a grass skate deck. And that's really why I wanted to get a chance to wear a lot of these hats in the projects. And the opportunity that is created from using these hats. And that gets me into my first project, Aptar. Aptar is a material science company that provides advanced packing solutions for sensitive products. And during COVID, they developed an active strip that sterilizes everything in a sealed environment when it comes in contact with moisture. And they came to us to kind of utilize this technology in the markets. And I began researching and sketching potential ideas and decided to dive into the hotel market. And after research, I found that the real competitive edge this technology has is the ability to sterilize. Because most of the time when you clean, you're just moving germs to new areas. So kind of the problem today is an increased concern with proper sanitation. So how can we utilize this technology to provide reassurance? I started off with some research of Jeremy's items in the hotel room, and we find some sketching, and then eventually modeled a CNC vacuum forming and 3D printing. And this eventually led to the creation of the sanitary. And ultimately, I was designing for the housekeeper. They clean an average of 10 minutes a day, and integrating this product into their existing routine needed to be quick and easy. And the pod system allowed for this. So to use this tray, you insert or you place items inside with glasses, remotes, menus, etc. Insert a pod, close the chamber, press a button, and then the gas is released. So when the guest enters the room, they can assure all the items are sterilized and ready to use. The chamber provides some confidence that the items have been properly cleaned and begin a transition from COVID back to regular day life. But the innovation of the sanitary really lies in the removable tray, because it opens opportunities for new markets such as home use or really anything that can fit inside. My next project was based on a design sprint during my studio abroad in Ireland. I took insights from the sprint and fine-tuned an application called Pronto. We were tasked with inspiring students of Glasgow to walk or cycle more often. We conducted brief research and hit straight to the streets of Glasgow to question our target audience, to eventually carry some ideas. Then we sorted those ideas into barriers, opportunities, solutions, and insights, and really found that the pain points were road conditions, bike rack availability, steep terrain, and weather. But we really couldn't control a lot of those things. So this is kind of what we came up with. And we began to implement into a rough wireframe. And that led to the later development of Pronto. So Pronto displays transportation types. It's just the best option based on time, distance, and weather. It then uses Google Analytics to determine how steep the route is and how many calories you would burn when you take that route. Here's a demonstration. But we realized early on that hands-free riding was very important. We don't want that because we want to ensure bikers that so Pronto lets you know where to turn and rack availability. So when you arrive to the destination, it shows you which racks are open and stores your location so you can go along your day. And then we integrated calorie calendar just to kind of keep track of the calories burned. And at the end of the day, it's really difficult to get a user to change their transportation habits, but Pronto provides all the tools necessary to do so. For my last project, we were challenged to reimagine the cooling in the home. I began conceptualizing a range of directions and became fixated on a heating tapestry that kind of exerts heat out of the home, and then a smart tracking fan. So to start off, we began testing, and I created an elaborate experiment to see if this first idea would work. And well, it just did. So that gave me another opportunity to pursue the next direction. And to test this, I placed individuals in a room, cut all cooling systems off, and gave them daily tasks to complete. And asked some questions to gauge your level of comfort. I did this with a ceiling fan and a vortex fan, manually tracking them. The vortex fan just sends a smaller channel of air across the room. And I really found that there's a difference between individual comfort and overall room temperature. So I really based, when I was trying to figure out how this would work, I found a research project that Cornell had conducted on a fan tracking system. And I based that technology around the sensor they used, which is a passive infrared sensor, to develop the form. And I mean, no one really wants a new smart product, so we got to show why they need it. And that is to cool people versus the room, to ultimately save energy. So here's Brisk, 360-degree rotation, a docking system that allows you to place the main location where it charges, and you can move it to another room for as long as the charge holds. Then a freezable metal insert to provide a cooler air option, and then the application, which allows for complete control of the fan. So the manual control panel allows you to place the fan in any direction or angle, and then there's manual or fan mode presets. And then the scheduling page allows for the user to optimize power usage and manage use. And because this is a smart product, updates can continuously improve the value, like workout mode. Brisk could autonomously increase fan speed based on workout movement and intensity. But overall, this project blends industrial and UI UX design. It was an amazing experience. And it's crazy to think that one sketch on the wall turned into all of this. So in all, I'm excited to learn new skills, take advantage of new opportunities, ultimately leave an impact on the sport. Thank you.
And I'll start. Hello, everyone. My name is Hans Kohler, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about my design journey. About a year ago, I was standing right here in front of this building, 395 Hudson Street, New York, and I was there for one reason, to visit IDEO. Now, I did not have an appointment. I didn't know whether I would be able to even see the studio, much less get inside and talk to someone. But I love design more than anything else in the world. I told myself that I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't at least try. So I took the elevator up to the 8th floor, and sitting in front of the studio were two people, one of whom was this man. And I politely asked him, I introduced myself, and I said, is there any way that I might be able to get in, take a small tour, talk to someone, anything would be fine with me. And he looked at me, and he was British, and he said, he's coming here off the street. And I pointed that, yes, that's exactly what happened. And he laughed, he said, that's brave, I like that. And he introduced himself, he shook my hand, he introduced himself as Paul Bennett, the Chief Creative Officer at IDEO. I was understandably blown away. I was talking to the boss, and Paul was a super down-to-earth, nice guy. He took time out of his day, he put me in touch with the studio manager, gave me a short tour. He linked me up with one of his industrial designers. And it was overall just an amazing experience for me because it cemented what I believed all along, was that IDEO is an amazing place to work, and I'm going to work there one day. So why do I tell you that story? It's because when I ask myself the question, why am I up here? Why am I considered among the people giving this presentation? It's because what I am best at is designing brave. Now, being brave does not mean that I'm infallible or invincible, does not mean that I'm superior. Being brave is facing adversity and pushing through your fears and doubts to overcome it. So in the interest of that, I'm going to show 3 projects today that showcase how bravery has impacted me as a designer and how it flows through my design. So the first project is called Monkey. So this is a game I designed. I've designed about a dozen games, but this is the first one that I've had professionally produced. And so the thing that I love most about game design is because it's exactly what design should be for me. It is intensely iterative, it's always focused on your user, and there are so many different creative possibilities that you can pull it from. Now, I designed all the cards, I designed the rules, I play tested the game, but I had a problem. I didn't know how to represent the non-physical aspect of the portfolio. How do you show someone in a portfolio, a static PDF document, how a game is played, what it feels like? And so I had a mentor who told me that I should try a video. And so I did. All right, so mute.
Monkey is a card game for 4 to 6 players. In Monkey, you play as explorers in an ancient jungle and the monkeys that hunt them.
So it does a great job of showing what I needed to convey. It shows all the interactions between players, between the game, what you can expect from it, and more importantly, what someone who's buying this game might expect from it. And I mentioned that part because this isn't just a high fidelity prototype. This is actually something you can go online and purchase from my store. I'm a self-published game designer. And that leads into my next project, which is Kohler Cacao. Now, Kohler Cacao is something that's very dear to my heart. It has half my name in it. But the reason that I bring this up is because I love chocolate.
And the best chocolate in the entire world is single origin chocolate. Single origin means that all the beans in the chocolate bar come from the same place. And depending where that place is, the chocolate can taste vastly different. And you're getting tastes that you would never expect and never get from conventional chocolate. But if you go into a grocery store like this one, and you look, none of these bars are single origin. Not even this one, which is the most expensive of the bunch, and promises to raise your vibe with healing-infused sound frequency. None of them were doing what I needed to be done. So I decided to do it myself. I bought the equipment, I sourced all of my ingredients, making sure they were ethical and organic, and I built a unique brand that focused on what I loved about single origin chocolate, that each origin tasted different. I worked with local printers and designed and manufactured packaging, which I have here. And people liked it so much that I started making a business out of it. I connected on social media and found customers not just within my immediate circle, but people who I'd never met before. But going into business took being brave. It took $700 about of my own money spent on equipment and materials, and that's not counting dozens and dozens of hours of my time publishing on social media, printing, cutting out packaging, molding, wrapping, all of that. But in the end, I think it was worth it. And at this point, it is not only a personal project, it is a profitable business. I've made over $950 worth of sales, and so I'm past my break-even point. And the last project I want to talk to you about today is a service design project that once again is a little bit difficult for me to show in this format because I made a video, but I can't show the whole thing. It's too long. So I'm going to give you kind of a greatest hits. So let's start at the beginning.
The United States of America is one of the richest countries in the world, yet we have one of the largest wealth inequalities of any country. When I was given the task to design a prosthetic, I didn't see the limits of a physical device. A prosthetic is something used to improve life quality and alleviate pain. So why not design a prosthetic not for a single person in pain, but for a community in pain? The pain I chose was poverty. Now, there's no magic bullet for poverty. It's a complex and multifaceted problem. However, there are things that one can do and learn that allow a better chance of freeing themselves of it.
Now, I looked around and I found through research that kids are actually the best shot we have at preventative measures for poverty. Poverty relief programs work best to affect kids' outcomes later in life. So I focused on them and I designed at first kind of a month-long summer camp. And each week of the camp was themed and would be addressing things that would be helpful for them, tools they could use. But when I was looking at the first week, when I was designing the activity day by day for the food and healthy eating week, I started to realize how many of those activities that linked from food could be used to convey these other concepts I was trying to teach. And so here's an overview of what this week looks like.
With shopping, teaching fiscal responsibility, cooking, teaching independence.
All right, we'll go back. Good.
With shopping, teaching fiscal responsibility, cooking, teaching independence, cultural dishes allowing broadened horizons, nutrition, teaching self-care, and local food, teaching community involvement and activism.
Here's an in-depth look of what one of those days' activities might look like.
Day 5 is about community. Partially guided by guests who are community activists or prominent members of the community, kids go to see local food producers in their community, learning about community agriculture to improve nutrition and how they can help the work that others are doing, or how to start their own.
Pathway is my proudest project today because it is my bravest. It takes a daunting task, which is tackling food insecurity and poverty, but we as designers need to pick up that gauntlet and take up that task. Judges, this whole presentation has been an exercise in bravery, and I know it might not have been exactly what you expected, but I've shown that being brave is not only practical and profitable, but actionable. And I hope, regardless of your decision today, that you will all continue to be brave with me. My name is Hans Kohler. Thank you.